You're busy, or at least you feel busy. You've got 47 unread emails, a gym membership you use twice a week, a side hustle that's making exactly $0, and a to-do list that looks like a grocery receipt for a family of 12. You're redlining your engine, but the speedometer isn't moving. Why? Because you're treating every task like it's equally important. You're spending 2 hours picking the perfect font for a presentation nobody will read, while ignoring the one phone call that could actually land you the promotion. You're majoring in the minors, man. This is the efficiency trap, and the escape hatch is called the Pareto principle, better known as the 80-20ths rule. By the end of this, you'll know how to stop grinding and start actually winning. Back in 1896, an Italian economist named Vilfredo Pareto noticed something weird in his garden. He saw that 20% of his pea pods were producing 80% of the actual peas. Being a math nerd, he didn't just make a salad. He looked at the rest of Italy. He found that 20% of the population owned 80% of the land. This wasn't a fluke. It was a universal law of predictable imbalance. In almost every system, a tiny minority of inputs creates the vast majority of the results. Think about your phone. You probably have 60 apps, but you spend 80% of your time on the same 5. That's Pareto. The 80-20ths rule is the ultimate cheat code because it destroys the myth of the fair universe. We are taught from birth that effort equals reward. If you work 10 hours, you should get 10 units of stuff. But the world doesn't work in a straight line. It works in a power law. In your job, 20% of your clients probably provide 80% of your revenue. Conversely, 20% of your clients probably cause 80% of your headaches. If you don't identify the vital few from the trivial many, you're going to burn out chasing ghosts. Let's talk about your fitness. Most guys go to the gym and spend 40 minutes doing accessory work. They're doing cable flies, wrist curls, and 4 different types of lateral raises. They're chasing the pump, but their physique hasn't changed in 3 years. Why? Because they're ignoring the 20% of exercises that drive 80% of growth. Squats, deadlifts, presses, and rows. These are the heavy hitters. If you only did those 4 movements and went home, you'd be bigger and stronger than the guy spending 2 hours on the inner thigh machine. Efficiency isn't about doing more. It's about doing the right asterisk things more often. Look at your wardrobe. You probably have 20 shirts, but you wear the same 4 favorite ones every single week. The other 16 are just taking up space, collecting dust, and making it harder to find the ones you actually like. That's a physical manifestation of the 80-20ths rule. Most of what you own, most of what you do, and most of who you talk to is just noise. It's the 80% that provides almost 0 value but consumes 100% of your storage space. This applies to your bros too. You might know 50 people, but only about 5 of them actually have your back when things get heavy. Those 5 are your 20%. They provide 80% of your social support, 80% of your laughs, and 80% of your growth. The rest? They're low-value connections. They're the guys who only text when they need a favor or want to complain. If you're spending all your time managing the 80% of people who don't matter, you're neglecting the 20% who do. It sounds cold, but your time is a non-renewable resource. Spend it where the ROI is highest. In your career, the Pareto principle is the difference between a workhorse and a closer. The workhorse stays until 8 p.m. answering every single email. The closer identifies the 1 or 2 high-leverage tasks, the big sale, the system automation, the strategic partnership, and crushes them by noon. If you can identify the 20% of your job that your boss actually cares about, you can do half the work and get twice the credit. Most people are professionally busy, but productively stagnant. They're running on a treadmill and wondering why the scenery isn't changing. Check your bank statement. I bet 80% of your discretionary spending goes to 20% of your categories. It's usually rent, car, and eating out. Most finance gurus tell you to save money by skipping your $5 latte. That's trivial many thinking. If you save $5 a day, you save $150 a month. But if you optimize your 20% like negotiating your rent or trading in that $700 a month truck for a sensible, you save $1,000 a month with one decision. Don't trip over pennies on your way to a pile of dollars. When it comes to eating, guys either eat like a trash compactor or they go full monk and eat nothing but steamed tilapia. Neither works long term. The 80-20 diet rule is the same man's approach. You get 80% of your results from the boring stuff, hitting your protein target and staying in a calorie deficit. The other 20%, the magic supplements, the timing of your meals, the organic versus non-organic debate barely moves the needle. If you hit your big targets 80% of the time, you can be a human being and have a pizza on Saturday without ruining your life. Stop using to-do lists. Start using success lists. A to-do list is just a graveyard of tasks that makes you feel guilty. A success list is a list of the 2 to 3 items that, if completed, make everything else on your list irrelevant or easier. If you have 10 things to do today, find the 2 that actually move the ball down the field. Do those first. If you get nothing else done, you still won the day. If you do the other 8 but skip the big 2, you lost. It's that simple. Moving on. Want to learn a new skill? Coding, guitar, a new language? 20% of the vocabulary in any language is used in 80% of the conversations. If you learn the 500 most common words in Spanish, you can navigate 80% of daily life in Mexico City. If you learn the 3 basic chords on a guitar, you can play 80% of the songs on the radio. Most people quit because they try to learn the whole textbook. Don't learn the textbook. Learn the high-yield 20% first, get the results, and use that momentum to keep going. Your phone is the 80% nightmare. 80% of your notifications are useless pings from apps trying to sell you something or remind you that someone you haven't talked to in 6 years posted a picture of a sandwich. This is low-leverage input. It interrupts your focus and provides zero value. Turn off 80% of your notifications. Unsubscribe from 80% of your emails. Delete 80% of the people you follow on Instagram who make you feel like your life sucks. Clear the trivial many so you can actually hear yourself think. The principle works in reverse too. Usually 80% of your stress comes from 20% of your problems. Maybe it's one toxic coworker, one bad debt, or one health issue you're ignoring. Most guys try to fix everything at once. They try to be happier. That's vague and useless. Instead, identify the specific 20% of your life that is causing the 80% of your misery and attack that one thing with everything you've got. If you kill the big bad, the small bads usually disappear on their own. Every decision you make burns mental fuel. If you spend that fuel deciding what socks to wear, what to eat for lunch, and which Netflix show to watch, you won't have anything left for the big stuff. This is why guys like Mark Zuckerberg or Steve Jobs wore the same thing every day. They used the 80-20 rule on their own brains. They automated the trivial 80% of their daily choices, so they could save 100% of their focus for the vital 20%. You don't need a uniform, but you do need to stop wasting high-value brain power on low-value choices. In a relationship, 80% of the friction usually comes from 20% of the recurring arguments. It's usually about money, chores, or communication styles. If you stop trying to fix the relationship and instead fix the 2 specific things that cause the most heat, the rest of the relationship often fixes itself. Focus your emotional labor where it actually creates peace, not just where it's loud. The last 20% of any project takes 80% of the time. This is the law of diminishing returns. If you're a perfectionist, you're a Pareto loser. You spend weeks polishing something that was already good enough at the end of day 2. In the business world, done is better than perfect. Get the 80% result with 20% effort. Ship it and move on to the next thing. While your competitor is still picking the perfect color for his logo. You've already launched 3 products and captured the market. How do you start? Tonight, sit down with a piece of paper. Divide your life into work, health, and relationships. List everything you do in those categories. Then, circle the 2 or 3 items in each that actually give you the results you want. Everything else is just maintenance or distraction, your goal for the next 30 days is to double down on the circled items and aggressively ignore, delegate, or delete the rest. It'll feel weird at first, like you're being lazy. You're not. You're being effective. The P-pod. Predictable imbalances everywhere. The vital few. 20% of causes lead to 80% of consequences. The gym. Squats beat wrist curls every single time. The closet. You only wear 20% of your clothes. Get rid of the rest. The social. Invest in your inner circle. Ignore the acquaintance noise. The work. Identify the tasks your boss actually pays you for. The finance. Fix the big bills before you worry about coffee. The diet, protein and calories are the only things that truly matter. The success list. Do the big 2 before the small 8. The skill. Learn the most common 20% of any subject first. The phone. 80% of your notifications are a scam for your attention. The negative. One big problem is usually causing all your stress. Decision fatigue. Automate the small stuff to save your brain for the big stuff. Perfectionism. It's a waste of time. Get to 80% and ship it. The universe isn't fair, and effort isn't rewarded equally. Stop trying to give 100% to 100% of things. It's a math problem, you can't win. Find your 20%, protect it with your life, and let the rest of the world worry about the peas. If you're part of the 20% of viewers who actually made it to the end of this, hit the like button. Comment 80/20ths below so I know who the high leverage guys are. Subscribe if you want more bro educational breakdowns that actually respect your time. Now go do the one thing you've been putting off all day.